Hey guys, thanks for tuning us in for this 22nd episode of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. Special guests for this episode include comedian Esther Povitsky, country singer Courtney Dickinson, comedian Aries Spears, Kim Fields and Tressa Azarel Smallwood, and rock music legend Steve Hackett from Genesis. If you would, please take the time to subscribe, drop a like, comment, leave some feedback, and of course, share with your friends. Up first is stand-up comic Esther Povitsky. First off, Esther, great to visit with you.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's hot for my name because I have a quite ugly name, so I feel like I'm at least hot for my name.
Yeah, I transposed it incorrectly. Yeah, hot for my name. But now, Esther, when did comedy become a thing that you were like, maybe this is my reality?
Oh, well, I've always been a huge fan of Saturday Night Live and Seinfeld, and I just really felt like that was the only thing that made me happy. It was the only thing that I really loved, and I didn't even necessarily know that I was going to be great at it. I just knew that I wanted to be involved with it in any way that I could. Shows like Family Guy and The Simpsons. I really have always loved comedy.
Now, what do you think is the biggest mistake that people have about comedians? I mean, obviously, everybody expects you to be on and to be funny at all times. But aside from that, what is maybe one of the biggest misconceptions folks have?
I would think that maybe that comedians must be really social is a really good misconception. A big misconception. I'm really not quite as social as I think I used to be. Because maybe before stand-up you are, but once you start doing it, you kind of give all your social skills just to your stand-up act and all that brain space. So I would say that comedians are probably more homebodies than maybe people think. And
with the special coming out, especially at this time, it's obviously promotion is a little bit different than probably it's ever been before, or that it's ever gonna be. But Esther, what has been the biggest challenge getting the word out, if you will?
I think just the normal ways you promote things, you simply can't do. I can't get on a plane and fly to New York and go in person and do the radio shows there and do TV appearances. That stuff is just not on the table anymore right now. And the other crazy thing, it's the reason you do a special is so that people can buy tickets to come see you. And so it's been really weird doing this and going through this process, but knowing that there's not going to be a tour this year. There's not going to be even local shows. So, but at the same time, there's also this other new excitement that people are looking for new things to watch, and appointment TV, which has gone out the window the last 10 years, is kind of coming back. People are excited I hope people will be excited to kind of watch something that airs tonight on a Friday night, which I just don't think, I honestly didn't expect that when I filmed this. I'm like, people will watch it on their computers later, and now I'm like, no, people I think are going to watch it at home on TV and Friday night. There's no movie theaters open,
Now, Esther, what during this time has it been a time that has been inspirational for you in your writing, or has it made it maybe a little bit more murky, a little harder to get the inspiration?
I'm definitely the person that has not had an easy time being inspired, because the thing with stand-up, it's we do this because it's instant gratification, right? You get to write the jokes, go on stage that night, and right away, do people love it? Do they hate it? And so it's been really hard to be motivated to write any stand-up when when you don't know. When the heck am I going to get on stage again? I have no freaking clue. So I've been doing other things completely. I have been tie-dyeing. I have been podcasting. I have been trying to cook, failing at many different dishes. But yeah, no, I'm a whole new person.
Now, what have you learned most about yourself in this time as that you think is going to make maybe a change in your life over the last few months?
I would say I've learned that I actually care about what I wear more than I thought. I usually just when I go and do stand-up, I just throw on any old sweats and sweatshirt. Like, I'm not looking my best or anything. But since being in quarantine, that's all I have is picking out an outfit. And I've, like, never been better dressed than when I'm just sitting in my house all day. Granted, I'm wearing, like, just cute sweatpants. You know, I'm not exactly dressed up, but I'm actually color coordinating for the first time in my life. I never would have thought I'd see this in myself.
That's awesome. And again, the special on Comedy Central, Esther Povitsky, Hot for My Name is the name of the special. And Esther, always want to make sure and let folks know where they can find more information about that, and of course, all of your social media as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, on Instagram, I'm at Esther Monster and Little Esther on Twitter. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Well, Esther, it's been great to visit with you this morning. Looking forward to the special, and hopefully we can catch up again real soon.
I would love that. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
All right, guys, our next guest here on the Good Questions with Cameron Dole is another one of our friends. Made friends with Courtney. I guess it's been about 2 or 3 years ago now at CMA Fest in Nashville. Courtney Dickinson has a brand new single. We'll be talking about that as well. And Courtney, first off, always good to talk to you, my friend.
So good to talk to you, too. It has been a long time, but it's always good to talk to you.
And Courtney, tell our listeners, and I kind of want to hear it from your side a little bit. I know you sent me the information about the song. It was right about 2 weeks ago, and I remember my response back to you was, I'm probably not going to check it out this week, especially after the warning you gave me. But this is a very special song, and I am now understanding the concept of what the song means as well, Courtney.
Yes. So this song for me, it took a couple years to write. It was one of those things for me. I had a super, super close relationship with all three of my grandparents. And the last few years, pretty much, not more a few years, more like the last 6 years on and off, I had three grandparents, and they all have passed in the last 6 years. So if people do know me, they'll see these little spikes that I've had with music, a high, and then I kind of dwindle out for a bit, and people are like, what is she doing? And usually what that was is a grandparent got sick. And our family, we are one of those families that when someone gets sick, we're the ones that we rally around them and we take care of them. So it took me a while to be able to emotionally be okay with writing this song. And finally I did. And I'm so glad I did, because last year was such a big year for me personally. I graduated college while doing music and promoting my own single. And I also got married. And it's just these big moments in your life that you really want the people you love to be there. And my grandparents were those people that I wanted to be there. And in those moments, you felt them there. You know, they weren't there physically, but you kept, I always thought about, well, if they were here, I know they'd be doing this right now. And that's kind of where the song came from. And I feel like it's just something anyone can relate to that has lost somebody super personal to them and can relate their own stories to the song.
That's right, and you did give me the warning not to watch or listen to it quite yet, and I do have to say thank you for that. And we were messaging yesterday, and you asked me, you were like, have you listened to it? And I was like, I think I'm finally ready to listen, and the timing was perfect, Courtney. And for you, I mean, obviously you're getting feedback from other folks on the song as well, and is that kind of the same feedback you're getting from the other folks as well?
Definitely, and if you have lost someone recently, extremely recently, yes, it's one of those things to be warned about, because, and it's not necessarily that it's a sad song. I think it's more of I was talking to someone about this yesterday. It's almost a positive thing, because it's like, you know what, you're not here, but you still are. I still see you in all these things, and you still live on. So I'm getting the same response from people in that they can relate. It's just a different type of way they can relate. For me, it was my grandparents. For others, it might be a cousin. It might, it depends on their own lives. And a lot of the things that I talk about in the song, people might not be relate to that exact thing, but they can think of a moment that reminds them of that person and it takes them back. So yeah, I definitely think so.
And Courtney, for you, the one of the messages I passed along to you yesterday after I listened to the song was, and it's something that I appreciate about getting to know some of the artists early on as well, is seeing the maturity and the voice. Your voice has grown. I can tell a big difference over when I first met you, and for you, how. I guess question, what do you work on the most vocally in your technique? Is there certain things that you work on over others?
I think for me, I think that the sound of my voice has just changed because of my age. One is that, when you're 19, even 22, 23, your voice is still, it's not where it's going. It's not what it's going to sound like forever. And I think that a lot of it for me was just continuing to practice and branching out and doing different types of songs in my set list, like cover songs and stuff, that it just made me kind of grow and get out of my comfort zone and made me start writing different lyrically and melodically too. So I don't think it's necessarily a technique that I've been working on. I think it's just practice, and just kind of growing up and being an adult now. I think it's just a little different because of my age.
Now, this year being so much different for everybody, and we've spoken about this as well. The new single doing this, the homebound version, if you will, the promotion for that. As an independent artist, for the listeners out there that they hear you on the radio, what's the behind the scenes like, independent promotion wise for you?
Well, for this song, it's been completely different than any other song I've done because of the year it is. So, even just in the recording process, normally I recorded in my producer's home studio, which, is professional. I recorded this song in my closet in my apartment, and I have behind the scenes videos of that I plan on sharing just because I think it's kind of funny. Because I'm in this tiny little closet. But promotion-wise, too, as an independent artist, it would be wonderful to have a team. And I do have a team. I have a great PR company that's helping me with some things. But, it would be great to have a team for every single thing. As an independent artist, there's so many different things that you need to be doing, whether it be radio, it be your online presence, your social media, just everything. And for major artists, they have a team for each one of those things. They probably have a team for every single social platform. So as an independent artist, you're doing it all. And so sometimes it gets overwhelming. And unfortunately, sometimes some things kind of get the back end of the deal. They don't really get the attention that you want because as an independent artist, you got to do it all. So I would say for people that don't know, it's a lot of work.
It's not for the faint of heart.
No. And, I've gotten my feelings hurt a lot over the years because it's also a very tough business. And now I think I have, and this is not to sound bad, this is just part, if people don't know, this is just part of it. As an independent artist, rejection is an almost everyday thing. And it doesn't mean that you're not good or that you're not getting somewhere and that you're not making big steps. It's just a part of it. So I think I've just kind of gotten used to it in a way to where it doesn't bother me. When it doesn't happen, it's just like, oh, well, that person's opinion, they didn't like it. Okay, next. So I think that that's a huge thing is that if it takes a lot of, you have to turn your emotions off sometimes.
And for you, I know that you also have some hobbies, and any of your radio friends probably well know. Get the Courtney Dickinson care package in the mail. We always look forward to those. How much has your cooking helped you through, especially the year that 2020 has turned out to be?
So when all this started, me and my mom were talking. My mom was like, you should start making stuff again for radio while, you're sitting around doing nothing. Send it out to people. Because I was so bored. Oh, my gosh, I can't tell you how bored I was. But then I started thinking, and some people, that was when the beginning of this happened. And I thought if I sent it to anybody, people would throw it away because they'd be like, oh no, it might have it in the, so, but I've been cooking so much at my house, like for dinner and stuff like that. And I've tried so many new recipes. Like last night, I made chicken parmesan. I've just kind of gotten real creative because when you got a lot of time on your hands, and I love cooking. I really do. I love baking. I love cooking. I find it super enjoyable, and everyone seems to like what I make, so it works out good.
Now, who instilled the love of cooking? Was that your mom, or did it come even more generational than that?
So I think when I was a kid, my mom definitely let me in the kitchen. Her mom never really let her kind of cook with her in the kitchen. So I guess it was something that was important to my mom. So yeah, I mean, as a kid, there's pictures of me baking with flour all over me. And I remember my grandparents, my granny and my pop, bought me an easy bake oven. That was the thing when I was a kid. I don't know if they still exist.
They still do.
They do? Okay. Well, that was an amazing thing. And I think every kid that is interested in baking should have one of those because, oh my gosh, I loved making stuff in that. I think that's kind of where it kind of started, is that easy bake oven. I loved that thing. That thing was so cool.
Now, what is the next step for the single? Obviously, trying to get it out there to more stations. Are you doing more? I know we're working on doing a Facebook takeover next week. You have more of those lined up as well, Courtney?
Yeah, I actually did one last night, and I have a couple more lined up for the next few weeks. But I'm also releasing a music video that I'm super excited about. So that's kind of the next step. Other than, promoting the single, is I'll be releasing that music video, and I'm just super excited about it because people that don't know me personally yet are going to get to know me really well in this video. I actually filmed it at my grandparents' farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, Alabama, that they left to my parents when they passed. So people kind of get to see where I grew up as a kid, like hanging out with my grandparents. So that's one thing I'm really, really excited to share.
That's awesome. And I want to make sure, Courtney, to let our listeners know where to keep up with upcoming releases, all of your tour information, whenever the things start opening up a bit as well.
So you can find all that information at CourtneyDickinson.com, which is DICKINSON. And my socials are pretty much the same. It's just Courtney Dickinson Music. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok now, they're all there. So it's pretty easy to find. And my website lists all the tour dates and everything. So, and that will include Facebook takeovers. So if you can't make it to a live show, because I don't have many of them right now, and the ones I do are pretty much, local and small, you can watch from the comfort of your own home.
And there you go. Well, Courtney, it's always great to visit with you, and I'm really enjoying the new single, and look forward to talking again real soon, my friend.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Our next guest is comedian Aries Spears, talking about his latest season of his podcast. Stand-up comic and podcaster now, beginning year number 2 of Skywriting with Skywriting, easy for me to say. Just Aries Spears on the line with us this morning. Aries, first, thanks for taking the time to be on the show.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Now, when you first got into the podcasting, I mean, did you think it was going to go into past the first year, or what were your initial thoughts going into it?
I just really wanted to try to grow as quickly as possible. I mean, I know that the podcast ocean is a big ocean, and the thing you want to do is not just be another fish in a big pond. So I just wanted to do exactly what we needed to do to stand out and kind of put ourselves out there.
And now that you got a year under your belt, what's the biggest thing that you have learned that that doesn't go over as well as you thought maybe originally?
We're still learning as we go, man. When you look at everything in terms of perspective, there are guys who are working on episode 700, and right now we're at episode almost like 180. So we still have a long way to go, and we're a work in progress. But as far as what not to do, what to do. You know, that's kind of what we pride ourselves on, and that's the theme of our podcast is we are anti-political correctness and cancer culture, and, you know, we're 100% uncut Bolivian cocaine, baby.
And you talked about the PC and especially in comedy. We talked to Judy Gold earlier this week about how PC is affecting comedy. And from your side of things, how is that? How do you see that as well?
Yeah, it don't affect me because I'm Floridian with my comedy. I stand my ground, you know, and I come from that old school, you know, George Carlin, Richard Pryor era, where the best comedy is comedy that's honest and it doesn't falter or waver. So it doesn't affect me because I'm who I am, and you either like it or you leave me alone.
And Aries, for you during this time, has the podcast kind of helped keep things maybe some semblance of normal in this crazy time we're living in right now?
Yeah, and I think people need that. I think, you know, between COVID and racial strife and cancer culture and political correctness, I just think people are kind of fed up. And, you know, I'd like to think that our podcast is kind of that outlet that you listen and live vicariously through in terms of honesty and just being real and giving people what they want. So I take pride in it.
And I know that you did the Pandora station and it's gone over 300 million streams. I mean, how crazy is that whenever you start looking at the numbers?
Yeah, I never really paid attention to the numbers. So when I got that news, unbeknownst to me, it was shocking, and I'm grateful for it.
That's awesome. Now, Aries, I always want to make sure and let folks know where they can check out the podcast and also keep up with everything you got going on social media as well.
Yeah, it's available on all streaming platforms: Google Play, Apple, Spotify, Amazon. Or I tell people simply just hit me up in my Instagram under my name, Aries Spears, and I will personally send you the links if you DM me.
All right. Well, again, Aries, it's been great to visit with you this morning. Hope you have a great weekend and more success on the podcast, my friend.
Thank you so much, sir.
Of course, you can find his podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. Our next guests are actress and director and executive producer Kim Fields, along with her friend Tressa Azarel Smallwood. First off, thank you guys so much for taking some time to be on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Now tell us when this was first approached to you from BET. What was your initial reaction and the excitement leading up to the projects? First off, for Kim, sorry.
Wow, I think for me, as the producer, when I was first introduced to it, I was excited just the fact that I'd never been approached to do these types of projects before. You know, most times in films, we look for, you know, entertainment, but these stories impact, you know, African American communities, and so for me, it was just, you know, I was elated. And then, of course, I got to work with Kim, which just doubled the icing on the cake.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I second what Tressa just said in terms of, you know, the type of project that it is. And when I was asked to be a part of it, first and foremost from the standpoint of they were selecting 4 female directors that were also actresses and black women. And so to be considered in that category with the other women, the other badasses, as I say, has been really just tremendous.
And the timeliness of it right now, how important do you think it is? Tressa, I'll ask you first off, how important is it to you, the timing of the release and maybe to see people getting behind the cause as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for years people did not want to talk about mental health or, you know, just, you know, people getting help. Now, more than ever before, people are now speaking out. You know, it's almost like it's cool to talk about it now. And if you look at what's been going on since the pandemic, we're seeing it more and more with, you know, celebrities speaking out about it. And so, you know, from a time factor, this is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And Kim, during the pandemic, everybody's been having to deal with it different ways. What has been your way of dealing with the isolation, the unavailability of being around the friends that you normally hang out with?
Well, certainly leaning on FaceTime has been a tremendous, tremendous help, definitely. Not much of our lifestyle was impacted by this. Our kids were already homeschooled since last spring, so that was something that was, something we were already doing. And our family is very, very close-knit anyway. So if anything, the first part of the pandemic was different for us in terms of we were apart from Chris. And so while he was in Atlanta, the kids and I were in L.A. because I was doing my series on Netflix, The Upshaws. And so that was, a challenge for the first couple of months. But other than that, just constantly checking in, sending text messages, those little gifts that say, sending a virtual hug, little voice memos and things like that, just so that there's just that constant sense of check-in, of love, of light, of support, hearing from each other. And then social media. I do these live chats that have become insanely popular, much to my surprise. But I think overall, just being a part of conversations and things that are important, but also finding the time to keep it light and lighthearted, because this is a pandemic, and then we have, the wave and the very game-changing wave of social unrest and working through that. So we've dealt with some very, very heady issues, and certainly now more than ever is the time to, talk about and explore mental health awareness and how to make that a part of your everyday narrative in terms of self-care.
And Tressa, on the opposite side of the screen as a producer, director, and seeing things from a different way than on screen, the acting side of things, has the pandemic has it maybe brought inspiration, or has the inspiration been a little bit more difficult for you to find?
Yeah, I think I've been inspired to push through even more, because obviously with the pandemic, when you talk about being able to film during a pandemic, we filmed these projects in 8 days total. Each project took 2 days, but we had to actually endure the fact that everything would be different on set. There was no more touching and hugging and picking up the same items that we used to and coming behind each other. And so we had to be able to push through that. But this is the new normal. Anytime we film anything now, this is what it's going to be. So I think that was what I had to deal with most, how to film these projects and keep us all safe.
There you go again. BET Her presenting The Couch. That's coming up this Saturday, 9 Eastern, 8 local time. And Kim and Tressa, it has been great to visit with you guys this morning. I appreciate your time, and hopefully we can catch up again real soon.
Great,
yes,
thank you.
Thank you so much.
And our final guest is rock legend, guitarist Steve Hackett. You know him from his time with Genesis. We'll be talking about a brand new CD DVD release. First off, Steve, thanks so much for taking the time to be on the show.
Thank you, Cameron. Very nice to talk to you.
And this this special live performance for you, Steve, to have this out and about, how cool is it for you on a personal level to see this crowning achievement, if you will?
Well, I love revisiting this material. It's got special significance for me because John Lennon said that we were one of the bands that he was listening to at that time, and he gave an interview, and we were still a very young, struggling band, as Genesis was at that time, and it made a huge difference. So I'm always grateful for that, because we spent a lot of time when we were kids growing up listening to Beatle records, of course. Hugely important for us Brits, and I believe for you guys on the other side of the pond.
Now, was it the love that you got from England and from those listeners and those fans what kept you going, and even like you said, through those lean times to what would eventually just be an explosion for Genesis?
Yeah, it's funny when you think of the trajectory of a band. I started this, or rather, I joined a band that had already done a couple of albums. They'd been at school together. And then Phil Collins joined 3 months before I did. He came from a stage school background and had already done films, and he'd been in the musical Oliver. But the other guys, had been in this all-boys school, locked away in boarding school, so they had plenty of time to write songs together and get to know each other. But when I joined, it was a band that was doing free lunchtime concerts and clubs and colleges, if we were lucky. And then a couple of years later, we started to tour the States, which is when John Lennon said, at the time of selling England by the pound, the Genesis was one of the bands that he was listening to. So I'm still proud of that era of the stuff we were doing. So I think, if the Beatles were doing anything weird and wonderful, we were definitely riding in on the coattails of that, and as were many bands such as King Crimson and Procol Harum, and bands that all admitted one way or another publicly that the Beatles had changed the game and had kicked open the doors, kicked them down, and for the rest of us to do anything we wanted to do between jazz and rock and pop and any other pan-genre approach we had, where you could experiment as much as you wanted. It was a very healthy kind of climate musically at that time.
And as you look back at the climate then and then where the musical climate is now, I mean, are you kind of blown away by how many different directions everything has gone?
Well, certainly, yeah. I mean, I've made some friends with recent acts who I think are very, very good these days. I was talking to Guy Garvey, the singer with Elbow, and he was interviewing me on radio, funnily enough, and we've become pals. And very, very interesting the fact that they've kind of got this similar approach, the pan-genre approach, and not afraid to do dark storytelling stuff. And bands like Muse, for instance, another British band that I think are influenced by everything from Chopin to Prince. And so there is new stuff out there, and I simply love the work of Joe Bonamassa reinvigorating the blues and blasting away like a good one. So that's really, really good. I love the idea of anyone who says that blues is simple, needs to hear him take it by the scruff of the neck and serve it up with such vigor and energy. So I think music's in a good place right now, in the hands of a few of these people that I've luckily spent a little bit of time with, and there is a camaraderie, there is a spirit out there, and we might as well change it all now because everyone's been locked down for so long. So I think it'll produce some very, very interesting music long term.
And as you look at the music's landscape around the world, and as you listen to new music, do you still hear the Genesis influence on some of the new music? Does it still kind of catch you off guard that way?
Yeah, I think so. I can sometimes hear the influence, and many times acts were saying to me that they've been influenced by what Genesis did at one time, and it may not be that obvious to me, but I've worked with Stephen Wilson in recent years, who's done the surround mix on this current album, the Selling England revisit, and he told me, what an influence it has all been on him, and he'll sometimes play me something and say, "Oh, can't you hear the influence of Musical Box?" or something like that. And I say, "Well, it's not obvious to me, but to him, it's very obvious." So luckily, it's pan-genre, but it's also intergenerational as well, and that's good. I think music doesn't have to just speak to one era. I don't think it's quite like it was at one time when it was, the Frank Sinatra era didn't really speak to the hippie generation in a way. Although you have certain writers, of course, who were like Jimmy Webb, who were able to bridge the generation gap in a way, and wrote extraordinarily beautiful songs that are well, it's a bit like the Western, isn't it? Describing the landscape of America in a way. But I know that he was influenced by Vaughan Williams, English composers, and church music, and all that. So the background of heroes perhaps is not that dissimilar to what Genesis liked to listen to.
That's right. Now, Steve, I want to make sure and let our listeners know where they can find more information about the new release. Also, everything else you've got going on social media-wise as well.
Yeah, well, my website is called hackettsongs.com. So HACKETTSONGS, hackettsongs.com. And you'll get all the information about billions of things that I've been doing over millennia.
Well, Steve, it has been great to visit with you. Been a big fan for many years. Hope you have a great rest of your week, and hopefully we can catch up again real soon.
Wonderful. Lovely to talk. Thank you so much.
Again, thanks for tuning us in for this 22nd episode of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. If you ever have a comment, question, anything else you'd like to know, you can find us on Instagram, on Twitter, and on the Facebook page, all at GQ with Cam. If you'd like to help out with the funding for this podcast, feel free to click the support tab and follow the instructions. We'll see you for episode number 23 real soon.